Character fingerprint, Maya. Age, 34. Region, working class, urban class, hourly wage. Humor, dry, self-contained. Trauma, carried quietly, unnamed. Signature idioms, plain speech, no performance, economy of word. Forbidden, sentimentality, coincidence framed as magic, poverty as costume. Maya counted the bills one more time. $12. She already knew it was 12. She had known since yesterday, and the day before that. But her hands needed to do something while her brain worked out the rest of the week, so she smoothed each bill flat against the kitchen table and lined them up by size. A 10. A 1. Another 1. The table had a scratch on it that she had been meaning to fix for 2 years. She left the bills on the table and made toast. Outside, the neighborhood was doing what it always did at 6 in the morning, somewhere between waking up and giving up, not sure which direction to fall. The bodega across the street had its gate half raised. A man walked a dog that clearly did not want to be walked. The bus that Maya needed appeared at the far end of the block exactly on schedule, which almost never happened, and she grabbed her coat and ran. She made it. Barely. She stood in the aisle holding the overhead bar, and the bus moved, and she watched the street go by. Her job was at a grocery store 4 miles away. She had worked there for 3 years, which was long enough to know exactly which floor tiles were cracked, which register drawer stuck, and which manager would be watching the clock when she clocked in. His name was Greg. He wore the same brown shoes every day and believed that punctuality was a moral quality. Maya believed that it was a bus schedule. She was 6 minutes late. Greg did not say anything. He made a note. She had learned long ago that the notes Greg made were permanent and the kindness Greg showed was not, so she moved past him and put on her store vest and started her shift. The store smelled like bread and cleaning product and something faintly sweet near the produce section that no one had ever been able to identify. Maya liked it. She had never told anyone that, because it was the kind of thing that sounded strange out loud, but there was something steady about a smell that was always the same. She worked the registers for 4 hours. Then she stocked the bread aisle. Then she went on break. She took her breaks outside, around the side of the building, where the delivery trucks parked and there were no customers. She sat on a crate she had dragged there herself 6 months ago and ate half a peanut butter sandwich. Not because she was saving the other half. Just because she was not that hungry. It was a regular Tuesday. She walked to the bus stop after her shift and took the long route back, which added 8 minutes but went past a block she liked, old brownstones that had somehow survived the part of the neighborhood that had been torn down and rebuilt into something none of the original residents could afford. She liked looking at the buildings. They reminded her that some things hold. She was almost at the Shell station on the corner of her block when she saw him. He was sitting on the curb. Not leaning against anything. Just sitting, the way you sit when you have decided to stay in one place and do not particularly care what anyone thinks of it. He was wearing a suit jacket over what appeared to be no shirt, and one of his shoes was missing, and he was holding a paper cup of gas station coffee with both hands, not drinking it, just holding it. He was not asking anyone for anything. That was the part that made Maya slow down. There was a particular way a person held themselves when they were in trouble but did not want to announce it. She had seen it before. She had worn it before, during a period of her life she kept in a box in the back of her mind, closed, not locked, just closed. She recognized the posture the way you recognized a song from the first 2 notes. She crossed the street and kept walking. She made it half a block. Then she stopped. She stood on the sidewalk for a moment. A woman with a stroller went around her. A teenager on a bike swerved without looking up. Maya stood there while the street moved around her and thought about the $12 on her kitchen table. The 10. The 2 ones. Then she turned around. She went into the Shell station. She stood in the aisle for a little while, looking at things. She picked up a pre-wrapped sandwich, the kind in the plastic triangle, turkey on white. She picked up a large coffee. She walked to the rack near the register where they sold the small things people forgot, phone chargers, lip balm, those small packets of socks in a bag. She took a pair of the half socks. The total came to $11.47. She paid. She went outside. She walked to where he was sitting on the curb and set everything down beside him. The sandwich. the coffee. The socks in the bag. She said, I have an early shift. I have to go. She did not wait for him to respond. She walked home. She climbed 3 flights of stairs. She put her key in the door and went inside and made the other half of the peanut butter sandwich and sat at the table with the 2 remaining quarters and the scratch she kept meaning to fix, and she did not think about the men on the curb again that night. She thought about whether she needed dish soap. She did. She went to bed. The rest of that week moved the way weeks move when nothing is happening and everything still takes effort. She worked Wednesday. She worked Thursday. On Thursday the bus was late and she was 7 minutes behind, and Greg made another note, and the note went into a file, and the file was the kind of thing that had weight even though it was just paper. Friday she had off. She cleaned the apartment. She bought dish soap with one of her 2 quarters and 32 cents she found in her jacket pocket. She rearranged the cans in the cabinet by expiration date, which was something she did when she needed to feel that things were in order. Saturday she worked a double. Her feet hurt by the end of it, but she had covered a shift for a coworker named Denise who had a sick kid, and Denise had promised to return the favor, and Maya was in the business of believing people when they made promises like that, even though it had not always worked out. Sunday she slept. On Monday morning, she arrived at the store 2 minutes early, which was unusual enough that Greg looked up from his clipboard. She had taken an earlier bus. She did not explain this to Greg. She went to the bread aisle and began her work. At 9 o'clock, the store's back door opened and a man came in wearing a good coat. He was with the regional director, a woman named Patricia who visited twice a year and smiled in a way that meant the visit was not a good sign. Patricia was introducing him to the assistant manager, a young man named Kevin who laughed at everything Patricia said. The man in the good coat was nodding and looking around the store the way people looked at things when they were deciding what they thought of them. His name, she heard someone say, was David Chen. District manager. New one. The old district manager had left in October under circumstances that no one explained but everyone understood. The store had been in a kind of holding pattern since then, operating under review, which everyone also understood in the way that workers always understand things before management says them out loud. Maya kept stocking bread. She was on the 3rd shelf when she heard footsteps stop behind her. She turned around, because footsteps that stopped usually meant something needed to be signed or someone had a complaint, and she turned around to find the man in the good coat standing in the bread aisle looking at her with an expression she could not immediately read. He said, "You bought me gas station socks." She looked at him. He said it again, quieter. "Last Tuesday. On the corner of Melrose and 5th. You left a sandwich and a coffee and a pair of socks." Maya had seen his face for about 4 seconds, in the early evening, when she was tired and looking at the curb and not at him. She looked at him now. The suit was different. Both shoes were present. He looked like a man who had slept and eaten and was standing somewhere warm. She said, "Okay." He told her what had happened. He said it in the short, careful sentences of someone who had rehearsed the explanation but still found it difficult. He had been in the city for a site visit. He had a medical episode, he said it that way, just those 2 words, in the parking lot of a restaurant 2 blocks from the Shell station. He had been disoriented. He had lost his wallet. He had walked until he couldn't anymore and sat down on that curb because the curb was there. He had been there for close to an hour before she walked by. The socks, he said, were what got him going again. He wasn't sure why. Maybe because they were such a specific, practical thing. Like someone had thought about what he actually needed and not just about the gesture. He had gone back to the Shell station the next day and asked the clerk if they knew who had bought the socks. The clerk had said no, but that a woman came in regularly. He had spent 2 days trying to find her through the neighborhood, which was exactly as difficult as it sounded. He had told Patricia when he got the assignment that he wanted to visit this particular store first. Maya was still holding a loaf of bread. She was aware of this, that she was holding it. She put it on the shelf. She said, "I'm glad you got home." He said that he was too. Then Patricia was there at the end of the aisle, looking at them both with the kind of professional smile that was also a question, and the morning continued. Maya finished the bread aisle. She worked the register for 2 hours. She took her break on the crate outside. She ate the other half of the sandwich she had brought, which was not peanut butter today because she had bought more things with the second quarter and what turned out to be a whole $1.11 in the bottom of her work bag. She drank bad coffee from the break room and watched a pigeon work very hard on a piece of something near the dumpster. She did not feel like something momentous had happened. She felt like a Tuesday that was technically a Monday. Inside, she knew, David Chen was in meetings with Greg and Kevin and Patricia. She knew this the way she knew everything about the store, through the walls, through the rhythm of footsteps, through the way people moved differently when someone important was watching. She went back in and worked until 5. Over the following 2 weeks, things at the store moved. Not dramatically. Not in the way of movies, where someone important arrives and fixes everything in an afternoon. Slowly, the way real things move. Greg was asked to document his tardiness system, which turned out not to survive documentation. The time clock that had been running 7 minutes fast for 8 months was finally calibrated, which Maya noticed on the first day it was correct without anyone saying anything about it. David Chen came back on the second Thursday and asked to meet with her in Kevin's office, which was a small room that smelled like a specific brand of air freshener Kevin apparently believed concealed the fact that he ate lunch at his desk. He had her file. He read through it before she arrived, she could see, because he had a specific kind of prepared stillness when she sat down. Not the stillness of judgment. The stillness of someone who had done their homework and wanted her to know it. He asked her about the notes in the file. He asked each one as its own question, in order, with the date. She answered each one the same way, briefly, with the facts, without explanation or apology, because the facts were explanation enough. The bus on Thursday, November 3rd, had been 11 minutes late. She had been 7 minutes late to her shift. He wrote something down. He asked about the floor tiles she had flagged twice, the ones near the dairy section that were cracking through. She said she had submitted 2 written requests. He said he knew. She did not ask what that meant, because she had learned long ago that asking what something meant before it meant it was a way of not being believed when it finally did. She went back to work. 6 weeks later, Patricia sent an email. Kevin came to find her at the register and told her, in the tone of someone who had been told to be enthusiastic, that she was being offered a shift supervisor position. It came with a different vest and a different rate and a schedule she could have input on. She would need to confirm in writing by Friday. She said she would confirm by Friday. She took the bus home. She climbed the 3 flights. She put her key in the door. She went to the kitchen table, where the scratch was still waiting, where 2 quarters still sat that she had never spent and could not explain why. She put her bag down. She made coffee. She sat at the table and looked at the 2 quarters for a long time. She had not spent them. She had needed to spend them. There had been at least 3 days where 50 cents would have made the difference between one thing and another. She had spent everything else. She had counted everything else, sorted it, arranged it, made it work. But not those 2 quarters. She did not think she was a person who believed in signs. She had seen too much to believe that the world arranged itself into lessons. Things happened, and then other things happened, and sometimes the distance between them was close enough that people called it meaning. She thought the more honest word was attention. David Chen had sat on a curb for an hour and nobody had stopped. She had stopped, not because she expected anything, but because she recognized something, a posture, a particular kind of quiet, and she had enough left in her to respond to it. And David Chen, because of what had happened to him on that curb, had paid a different kind of attention when he looked at her file. He had read the dates. He had checked the bus routes. He had asked the questions that the notes didn't ask. That was all it was. 2 people paying attention at the right time. She picked up her phone and typed her acceptance. Then she moved the 2 quarters to the windowsill, where she could see them from the table, and she sat in her kitchen while the city did its evening thing outside, the bodega gate coming down, the dog walker from the morning coming back, the bus on its route, exactly on schedule. She thought about making more toast. She did.